And now I've become really hesitant to mention personal experiences all that much online. I don't actually benefit from people making wild presumptions about my life or about what I think or how I have experienced the world because, guess what? There's a lot of context missing. There's a lot that I don't show. I have secrets. I have a lot of secrets. And, some of them are, juicy, but I'm never telling. Would it be too much if I suggested that we are living in a time where most of us feel like chronic failures? Because I don't know, that's how I feel most of the time in my day-to-day life. Every day feels like a series of constant mental tabulations of success versus failure. So, from the very beginning of my day, did I wake up early enough? Did I wake up earlier than the day before? Did I eat a good, healthy breakfast? Did I exercise? Did I read something edifying, something life-affirming? Did I write? Did I write well? And then what happens is that I make all these tabulations, then inevitably I have these days where everything falls apart and I do none of these good activities. Everything is a failure. And then on those days, I have this whole mental journey where I'm like, what am I doing wrong? How could I reshape my life so this problem never happens again? And I start thinking, maybe I need to rework my relationship with to-do lists. Maybe I need to cut back on the number of things I try to do every day and instead focus on the quality of things I do every day. Maybe I do need to abstain from social media outside of certain preset hours. Maybe I need to get outside earlier. Maybe I need to exercise first thing in the morning. And then I'll have a whole new plan for how I'm going to conduct my life. And you know what happens? It doesn't matter. I can have a perfectly good day, all tabulations in the good column, and I will still end up feeling at the end of the day like I am a failure. And so I ask myself, where is this coming from? Is it the consequence of short-form social media constantly showing us all the possible lives we can live and convincing us that our own lives are disappointing and convincing us that if we just make the necessary changes to our lives, if we adopt very strict black and white measures for making our lives better, we too will become great successes? Is it just a problem with me and my own pathological relationship with success? Is it that we have become so exposed to all of the possible ideal lives in the world that we will always just think our own lives are kind of lacking, that our own productivity is kind of lacking? Or is it that life really has become much more expensive, much more difficult to live, and we all feel the need to be perfect all the time to maximize our chances of living an actually livable life? I know that I did not always feel this way. I know that it's not just the number of tasks I have to do in a day, because I've had long periods of time where I had lots of tasks to do. I had a time in my life where I was doing a full-time PhD and I was working part-time in a client-facing job that could be pretty full on, and I was dating pretty actively, and I was also doing a lot of yearning in between those dates. And do you know how long yearning takes? Before I go any further, I should say that all of these questions I'm asking here are kind of just like food for thought. And even if I tried with data to answer all of these questions that I posed, I think the answer to a lot of them would be yes. I think yes, life is harder. I think yes, social media plays a role. And I think yes, I have a pathological relationship with the idea of success. But I do think it's ultimately not really about me. I think it is a systemic issue. And I also understand that self-help, self-exploration does have limits in trying to solve systemic issues. But you know what? I had to try something. So I thought to myself, well, what if I started implementing one day out of every week where I did only one thing? One activity, no other plans. I was so excited, honestly. Like, I looked forward to this Friday for the entirety of the week before. I made sure I was getting all of the work done that I needed to get done so that I could completely dedicate myself to this day of one activity, which I decided would be a fiction writing only day. I came up with a whole plan for this day. I decided, you know what, I'm going to go to like a really nice part of London, a place with great vibes where I can like feel like the, successful writer I want to be. I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a bus all the way there because like there's nothing better than a nice long meditative bus ride to like put you in the mood for doing some writing. And so Friday came, I got up. I was in a little bit of like a weird stressed out mood, but I was like, no, okay, we're going to stick to the plan though. And then I got on the bus and yeah, it was weird. I don't know, the mood was wrong. I guess I just got super self-conscious and this led to me being super self-critical. I mean, both like just in the way I was comporting myself, I suppose, on the bus, but then once I got to the cafe, in the very way I was writing. And you know what? I can see that self-criticism can be a useful energy sometimes, but that day it did not bring the creative freedom I wanted. I thought maybe I'd get some helpful literature. And at first I thought, oh, maybe I need to read another book on burnout. I've read a lot of books on burnout in my life. But then I thought, you know what, actually, it might be time to read a book on creativity. And so a few months ago, I'd gotten Rainer Maria Rilke's Letters to a Young Poet, and I picked that one up, being like, what if this contains the answers? And you know what? Maybe it did. Maybe it did. Maybe I figured it out. He reminded the poet he was writing to that the nature of creating art is that you need to tap into some fundamental of your experience. You need to tap into the wellspring of your emotions and your past and the nature of your childhood in order to create art. And he also said it's pretty much worthless for artists to engage in artistic criticism. Actually, there's a great quote here that I got to read. And let me at once make this request. Read as little as possible in the way of aesthetics and criticism. It will either be partisan views fossilized and made meaningless in its lifeless rigidity, or it will be neat wordplay where one opinion will triumph one day and the opposite the next. Works of art are infinitely solitary, and nothing is less likely to reach them than criticism. And so I started to ask myself, when did this overwhelmed feeling start? Like, when did this feeling that everything in life is just too much and I can't possibly keep a handle on it, when did that start? I think it really intensified within the past year or so, particularly maybe the year of 2024, 2025. Stuff started to get really intense in my life. And, it didn't escape me that that was also around the time that I pronounced to myself in the first ever video I made on this channel that I was ready to take my writing seriously. And what I meant by that was I was ready to actually try to publish and not just to put all my writing in meaningless Word documents. But then I started to think in terms of criticism and how this desire to take my writing seriously also coincided with a great uptick in my internet use related to the act of writing. So it was not only that I was writing more and trying to write very, seriously, it was also that I was now consuming a lot of writing content on social media. I was seeing all these videos about how to have an effective creative process or how to write well or what frameworks and structures to use in your writing to be publishable. And so I was consuming all of this, and I was also posting my own documentation of my writing process. It occurred to me more and more that the internet is functioning for most of us as this criticism machine. I ask myself, how much of what I see online is creators critiquing public figures, or creators critiquing each other, or creators critiquing culture, or commenters critiquing creators, or commenters critiquing each other. There's this constant drone of criticism emanating from the internet at all times. And it starts to really seep into your consciousness, whether you want it to or not, whether you are a critical person or not, not, whether you see the value in criticism or not. It really starts to like take hold. And I think it very much took hold for me. I think back to my writing only day, and why could I not just like have a fun day of like spending time writing? Well, it was because like the critical voice was in my mind. I couldn't quite break free of this like thought that, oh, maybe I'm actually not that good. Maybe everything I'm writing is really like naive or stupid or juvenile, even though like I think I'm a little too old to be writing juvenile stuff. It was that critical voice in everything I do. And not only is it the critical voice in the actual act of writing, it's the critical voice in the whole way that I structure my life. It's like I see all these like ideals of how to live a creative life, of how to be a writer, and just ideals of how to structure my days and my time, how to optimize myself, how to optimize my health and my sleep so I'm maximally productive. And I was never really like this before I started taking my writing seriously and consuming all of this writing content, and I suppose creating content for the internet as well. And I think that is the source of it. How much can my experience be extrapolated to other people's experiences? How many people, because they have this dream they want to pursue, have entered into this criticism cycle, this self-criticism cycle, this cycle of inviting constant critique by others? How many people have entered into that? How many people have thought, I want to improve my life in some minor way, and they've entered into the criticism cycle? How many people have thought like, oh, I just really need to escape from my boring job, or my life hasn't worked out in the way I want it to, but here are all these people telling me how to fix myself. Well, why don't I try? And I think this has just become so rampant. Like, it has become an absolute experience of constant misery because so many people are trying to improve themselves. But guess what? Like, the whole system only functions because we're never going to get there. Like, it only works as long as we are constantly in this state of like hating ourselves and trying to improve ourselves. But we can't actually ever achieve this because then who's going to watch the content? How are we going to stay engaged with the platforms if suddenly our lives are good? We won't. I think it's really created a society of constant self-criticism, constant anticipation of criticism from all angles. Even when you're just learning and working things out, there's this intense drive to be perfect. There's this intense drive to fit every behavior within algorithmic boundaries of right and wrong, good and bad. And I do just wonder how many people are operating within these algorithmic fueled binaries of behavior. How many people are feeling themselves so limited and so cut off in some ways from the truth of their existence and their experience because they are stuck within these cycles of critique? And like, how did we let this happen? And the thing is, I think we didn't let it happen. I think it was very much done to us. And sometimes I wonder if there's a sort of safety and a comfort in living a life of overwhelm. Sometimes I wonder if it's easier to just focus on what I'm doing wrong and how can I justify every behavior to myself and how can I apply strict metrics to my daily life to ensure that I'm doing all that I need to do in the time that I need to do it. Maybe by endlessly tracking, I'm allowing myself to further actually delay the expression of my dreams, because as long as I'm tracking and being like, okay, am I writing this many words a day? Am I keeping to like this strict sleep schedule? Am I waking up early enough? Am I writing at the right time of day? Am I blah, 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 blah? Am I actually just distracting myself from the real work of trying to tap into myself? Are all these productivity metrics ultimately just useless anyway? I mean, I kind of do think so. Like the conspiracy theorist in my mind is like, yeah, this was all sold to us to keep us like distracted and keep us feeling like we're always not good enough. And then, ultimately no one's going to have any ideas to put out there and we're all just going to become these drones. But now at the end of all of this, I really am asking myself like, okay, so I made all these observations. Now what? Well, I mean, the answer seems so obvious. Like, get offline. It's not even so much about getting off the internet. Like, it is, for the time being, still a place where people connect, where people put their work, where theoretically work could be discoverable. I guess I can't set too much stock by whether my work will be discovered. I can only put it out there and hope that maybe somebody will enjoy it. But what I can do, I think, is set stricter boundaries around what I am consuming online. And I think a big thing is to completely cut out criticism. No more cultural criticism, no more literary criticism. Like, that is the most harmful for me, because I just anxiously read this literary criticism. I'm like, what if my book's not good enough? Like, what if all these horrible critiques that are getting made of these published authors are going to be leveled at my book one day? How terrifying. All I can think about is, what have I done wrong? What sins have I committed? And that's no way to live. And I think also, of course, I really need to stay away from the self-optimization content as well. And, it's going to take some training, because, of course, I am very susceptible to this. It does come across my feeds quite a bit, probably because the algorithms have learned that I'm this anxious person trying to chase my dreams. And I've taken a lot of risks in my life to make these dreams possible. And now I'm like, ugh, have I ruined it? I have to fix it. And then I spend all this time trying to fix it, and then I don't realize my dreams in the first place. That's the way it works. I'm not going to say I will cut out social media completely. I'm not ready for that. But I want to cut how much I'm consuming, and then, really focus just on when I have something to say, when I've created something that I want to share, posting, and then getting off. And, the only thing that helps me through this is that I've been listening to a lot of Bright Eyes lately, and there's this lyric in one of the songs called "Let's Not Shit Ourselves, to Love and to Be Loved." And the lyric goes, "I do not read the reviews. I am not singing for you." And yeah, you know what? If it's good enough for Connor Oberst, it's good enough for me. And so that's kind of the attitude I'm trying to take towards criticism. The creative process is about me. It's, as Rainer Maria Rilke said, it is about your innermost life. We have to create from the innermost place of our soul. And yes, we can share it with others. And yes, we can hope that others will like it. But if they don't, well, they don't. No, you can't win them all. Can't please everyone. And that's how I think we stop the overwhelm. And that is how I think that everything can feel just a little less hard.